The only thing harder than making a game people will play just might be making a game people will keep playing. These are a few games that had a chance to hold on to their audiences, but for whatever reason, couldn't keep a grip on their player bases.
Wake the up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
Oh, Cyberpunk 2077, where to begin? It was a game that showed a lot of promise, as gamers were incredibly eager to explore Night City. Delay after delay created a kind of expectation and hype that would be nigh impossible to live up to. Sadly, things only got worse for Cyberpunk 2077 after it launched. It was an overly ambitious project that was rushed out the door, which led to a game that was improperly optimized for last-gen consoles. The resulting experience was so bad for players, the game actually got the boot from the PlayStation Store. It wasn't just Sony trying to do the right thing. Other companies stepped in to offer refunds. The whole ordeal reportedly cost the developer and its founders more than $1 billion. What do all these refunds mean for community numbers? A reduction of 79% in a single month. According to Git Hype, it's a decline that was, quote, 3 times faster than The Witcher 3's launch on Steam.
Don't do this! You could still change your mind.
It's one thing to not live up to hype, but to fail as spectacularly as Cyberpunk 2077, it's almost an accomplishment in and of itself. If you can't meet expectations, failing on a grand scale could be the next best thing. Artifact was Valve's attempt to mimic the success of Blizzard's Hearthstone. Unfortunately, the company was too late to the digital CCG bandwagon. Peaking at just 60,000 concurrent players, 60% had abandoned the game within a week of launch. 6 months later, there were only about 1,500 concurrent players left. Artifact was panned by players and critics alike for its shady monetization scheme. After shelling out $20 to download the game, players were expected to spend more money on card packs. To make matters worse, there were no ways to earn cards for free, although players could sell cards to each other. This created a pay-to-win dynamic that spoiled the fun for everyone. An update that made it possible to win new cards without paying brought back a few players, but the game didn't offer anything novel to siphon away hardcore Hearthstone players. Valve has since put a halt on new updates for Artifact and is purportedly considering a major overhaul of the game's mechanics. Bleeding Edge's existence was first leaked before E3 2019. Coming from the developer who created hit titles like Enslaved, Odyssey to the West, and Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, the game certainly seemed to be in capable hands. So how did its peak player base dwindle from 828 concurrent players to 101 in 2 months? In his review for Windows Central, Jez Corden called it, quote, a 4v4 brawler brimming with potential that may never be realized. Corden felt that this cyberpunk-themed online arena game lacked compelling combat, substance, and overall player incentive. Corden also noted that Bleeding Edge was bogged down in significant lag. With all that said, Corden still had hope for the game. Sadly, that potential may never be realized. In January 2021, Ninja Theory announced via Bleeding Edge's official Twitter account that the game was essentially dead. The tweet read, "With the studio now focusing on our new projects, Senua's Saga, Project Mara, and the Insight Project, we have decided that there will be no further content updates for Bleeding Edge." Ninja Theory concluded by reminding the few remaining players that Bleeding Edge could still be played on Xbox and PC. Take Marvel's Avengers, which represents the best of the action world. Now put it in the hands of publisher Square Enix, which often represents the best of the RPG world. What do you get? Believe it or not, a total flop. What should have been a match made in heaven apparently didn't work out so well. Marvel's Avengers caused an uproar before it was even released, as fans were displeased that Sony held a Spider-Man DLC hostage from other platforms. Not the best start for a fledgling game. When Marvel's Avengers finally launched, it bombed in sales. The game's critical reception was middling. It came packed with bugs that needed to be patched, and the gameplay was fairly monotonous. As such, sales fell below expectations, and Square Enix failed to break even. After painting a better picture of what happened, it makes sense that Marvel's Avengers apparently lost 96% of its user base in the span of 2 months. With such a dramatic drop-off, it's almost like Thor threatened them to walk away from their consoles.
If you don't log off this game immediately, I'm gonna fly over to your house, come down to that basement you're hiding in, rip off your arms, and shove them up your butt!
That doesn't mean the developers didn't try. In a statement to Kotaku, Scott Amos of Crystal Dynamics promised that more exciting content was in the works, though it just might not be enough to reclaim that 96%. Initially promoted as a Fortnite killer, the future was looking bright for Crucible. So why did it totally flop in 2020? In Crucible's original form, 12 players were to duke it out in a battle royale shooter where a 13th user had the power to alter stage conditions, impacting the round in real time. This feature, along with several other gameplay mechanics unique to Twitch as a platform, was dropped from the final product as the game grew into more of a generic hero shooter. What really went wrong with Crucible was that it was essentially broken upon launch. Beginning with 10,600 concurrent players on Steam, the numbers swiftly dropped to 1,692 in a month. In an attempt to rescue the hero shooter, it was reverted to a closed beta state, but at that point the game was seemingly beyond resuscitation. Perhaps if the team had stuck to its original vision, Crucible would have worked better. Alas, nothing could bring this title back from the dead, and Amazon gave up on the project. Crucible's servers shut down in November 2020, with an official explanation that the dev team is moving on to work on New World and other Amazon Games projects. Street Fighter is undoubtedly one of the most successful fighting game franchises of all time, but the series' first venture into the online multiplayer and esports arenas was anything but a success. Connectivity woes made it difficult to find opponents, and with no mechanism to punish players who rage quit, cowardly gamers were able to evade defeat by leaving matches. Given the sparse amount of single-player content, Street Fighter V saw 75% of initial players quit the game, after playing only a dozen or so matches. Eventually, rage quitters received a skull icon next to their name, along with penalties such as matchmaking restrictions, but that didn't fix the confusing ranking system. Street Fighter V Arcade significantly improved the local multiplayer aspects, but it's obvious that's not how the developers intended to make money from the game, given all of the pricey DLC and loot crates available. The introduction of in-game advertisements did even more to make Street Fighter V look like a cheap scheme. In short, it was a fiasco, but at least it was better than that terrible movie. CNN's Shannon Liao claimed that Rocket Arena could have been, quote, another Fortnite if fans still had the appetite. That's quite the ambitious comparison for a game that started with 1,102 concurrent Steam users and then dropped to 96 within 2 months. According to Liao, many gamers felt that Rocket Arena may have been a little too similar to Fortnite in its look and feel. Regardless, the game sets out to distinguish itself from other battle royales with unique game modes and knockouts instead of deaths. The developer was very careful not to fall into the same traps as many other studios, such as implementing loot boxes or skipping out on regular content updates. Even so, Rocket Arena failed to make a mark. Marco Cocomello of Glitched believed that the game had already died after only 10 days on the market. Even though the developer avoided loot boxes, microtransactions were not reined in. Cocomello reported that players were displeased with the cost to play, as many believed it felt more like a free-to-play kind of game. Judging by its current player count, it could be that Rocket Arena's very business model was its own undoing. Pokémon Go is a textbook example of a fad. In the summer of 2016, people were walking into oncoming traffic, falling off of cliffs, and hiring Uber drivers in pursuit of Pokémon. Considering that Pokémon is one of the most successful media franchises ever created, it's no surprise that the app attracted so many casual players, many of whom had never played location-based augmented reality games before. While Nintendo is usually very protective over its properties, Pokémon Go was developed by a company called Niantic. Therefore, the app lacked Nintendo's seal of quality, which might explain why the game didn't have the staying power of the franchise's mainline entries. Pokémon Go brought in a staggering $35 million from 28.5 million players when it launched in July 2016, but those numbers immediately started to plummet when the novelty factor wore off. By the end of the year, Pokémon Go had lost 80% of players. Still, the game had around 5 million players a year after launch, so it's hard to call the game a failure.
How do we get on evolution? This is not about evolution!
Evolve launched with $136 worth of DLC, which is extremely ambitious for a new franchise. Considering that players had just spent $60 on the AAA title, it's no small wonder why many felt like the developers were desperately milking their wallets. From the very beginning, connection problems killed what looked like a promising 4-on-1 battle dynamic, and the developers couldn't patch the game fast enough to keep it from sinking. Evolve hemorrhaged concurrent players so quickly, 2,500 per day at one point, that the AAA title became free to play. That decision brought in new players, but giving the game away for free didn't fix the technical problems that turned people off in the first place. Turtle Rock Studios eventually gave up and stopped supporting the game. Surprisingly, Evolve provides a pretty decent single-player experience. If you want to play with others, however, you might be waiting for a while.